Welcome to the Roar of Judah. Our mission is to hear God's voice above the noise of this world. And now, here's your host, Dr. Mike.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Roar of Judah. I'm your host, Dr. Mike, and I have a very exciting guest. I can't wait to hear his story today. Matthew 7:15 tells us to beware of false prophets, that outwardly they can dress as sheep, but inwardly they can kind of come as wolves, trying to really devour us. And I think in my own journey, I grew up in a very works-oriented church. Remember in second grade in my religion class at the church, we had to bring baby dolls and we had to practice baptizing these baby dolls, because if they weren't baptized, if we ever saw a baby that was dying, we should go put water on it and baptize it, because without that, it might not get to heaven, which created a very obscure view of God. You think the Bible tells us to have a fear of the Lord, or we're supposed to have this holy, reverent fear. But, I grew up in a church where I actually feared the Lord and was scared of God and who he was until I heard the gospel message for the first time. And this person has a very similar, not similar, but another story like this to share and on his journey. So please welcome with me, Peter Young. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Great to have you today. And like all guests, I start out, if there's anything you could just share about your life, your family, where you live, would love to hear that.
Sure. I sometimes will give people the Reader's Digest version of me. I grew up back east, and I was going to be the next Larry Bird. I played college basketball, but that didn't happen. Then I got into basketball coaching. I was going to be the next John Wooden or Mike Krzyzewski. That didn't happen. Then I got into sports broadcasting, and I had a nice career, but I thought I was going to be the next Bob Costas. That didn't happen. But I did have 5 kids, so I'm very thankful and proud of that. I do have a full quiver. I now live just outside of Bozeman, Montana. I'm not a sports broadcaster anymore. Real estate pays the bills, but I am an author. So I've written 3 books, working on another. And I love to tell stories. So in addition to writing, I love coming on podcasts like this to tell my story.
Perfect. And we'll take up any more time. And like I said, I'm excited to hear this story as well, and your journey and where you've been and where God's brought you to. So go for it.
Sure. So thank you. So I unwittingly joined a tiny but destructive religious cult when I married the love of my life about 29 years ago. So I was in Pocatello, Idaho. I was doing the 6 and 10 sports with a local ABC affiliate, and mid to late 20s. And I had asked the Lord, to introduce to me this tall, beautiful, athletic Christian woman that I could one day marry. Well, at a singles Bible study in Pocatello, I met someone just like that. I call her Paige in my memoir that describes my journey. And, I fell in love with this woman fairly quickly. But she had this weird family guru, was how he was described to me by a friend of mine before I even met Paige. He said, "Peter, be careful, they've got this weird family guru," who turned out to be Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert wasn't related to any of us. He was born and raised in Syria. His real name was Robert Booty. But he met my former in-laws at a tiny seminary in Fresno, California in the early 70s. Started a very parasitic, dominant relationship then. So my ex-wife, at the time, future wife, was born into this. She knew no other world where Uncle Robert wasn't the expert. He was the expert on everything. And when I say the expert on everything, one of the first funny, I guess it's kind of odd or funny anecdotes in this, over 20-year journey was, I knew I wanted to marry this woman, but I needed to meet her father and this Uncle Robert because she talked about him all the time. So a month after I meet Paige at the singles Bible study, drive to northern Idaho. I'm in southern Idaho. Meet the parents, and I just had to go to the bathroom. It was like a 6-hour drive. So I go down the hall. I'm a guy. I stand up to go pee, and when I come out, he's right there, Paige's father, standing in the doorway. He says, "I heard you go to the bathroom. In our house, all the men need to sit down to pee." I thought, wow, that's really weird. And then he said the phrase that I heard hundreds of times after that: "Uncle Robert taught us that." And if Uncle Robert taught you anything, it was unassailable. You could not question it. So when I say he's the expert on everything, he was the expert on everything: religion, faith, politics, economics, how to go to the bathroom, intimacy with your partner, you name it. My wife and my in-laws looked to him for everything. So cutting to the chase, Paige and I did get married. We did have 5 kids. But for the first few years of our marriage, I thought I was the best husband ever. She was the best wife ever. We had the most beautiful marriage. And we lived in Idaho and then moved to Montana. Uncle Robert lived in Southern California. Now, I should backtrack a little bit and say I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I grew up in a Christian home. My parents are still together. They've been married almost 70 years. I have 4 older brothers. We went to church. I went to the Christian summer camps. I became a believer as a teenager. I was baptized in my 20s. This was all before Uncle Robert. So I had a good, strong upbringing in the church. And so when I say that my little family got absorbed into this little cult, that's excluding my parents and my brothers and my sister-in-laws, because they lived on either coast. So in my little family, we had a child and another boy. Uncle Robert didn't really have a huge impact on us at that time. But looking back, hindsight 2020, he always did with Paige. She always revered him, always adored him, always respected him, and always took his counsel over mine. I probably didn't see it these first few years of our marriage, but, he was always a cell phone call away. And, many years later, we called him every day. I called him, she called him, my in-laws called him. And he had a lot of odd theories, theologies. He said that casinos were the true churches in America. And so the churches that you and I would go to on a given Sunday were a complete waste of time, because only he knew the true gospel. And all of the pastors there on Sundays were just sharing the false gospel, and so we should only listen to him. And then the idea about a casino being the true church, anybody theoretically could go into a casino and be blessed by the Lord. Like, okay, but when I go to a casino, which is rare, I see people worshiping money, not the Lord. And oh, by the way, we tithed to him. So, over the years, I would tithe to like Athletes in Action or our local church or Prison Fellowship and other organizations, or we might just give people money who needed it, other believers. But eventually, we started all tithing to him. And our cult was small, so Uncle Robert wasn't getting rich off of us. It would have been Paige and I, my in-laws, one of Paige's brothers, a couple other people, and that's it. Everyone on Paige's side of the family had been either absorbed into the cult or shunned, because you either supported Uncle Robert and trusted him implicitly, or you were like the swine. We were not to share our pearls with you. So many of Paige's family, sister-in-law and brother-in-laws to me, were shunned. Didn't see them for the longest time. So, we would send our tithe money to him. He loved to go to casinos. That was his true office. And I remember shortly after 9/11, he said that Roosevelt was a Jew and Truman was a Jew and 80,000 people died on 9/11. It was all a Jew's fault. So, this very kind of long and complicated history in his mind all goes back to Jacob and Esau, where Jacob becomes the 12 tribes, which becomes modern-day Christendom. Esau becomes Edom, which is all biblical, and then Esau becomes Edom, which becomes modern Jewry. So every, snowstorm that you're suffering through right now, Mike, plane crash, you name it, was a Jewish conspiracy to get the birthright back from Judah, who stole it. And one thing I should point out, that with cult leaders, don't start out spouting utter nonsense and lies. They start with the truth, and then they slowly but subtly twist it and pervert it. So if you miss-hit a golf ball by this much, right now, when I play, I miss it by that much. But if you miss-hit a golf ball by this much, 100 yards down the fairway, it's way off to the left or way off to the right, nowhere near where you intended it to go. Well, Uncle Robert, to continue the analogy, would read to us from the Bible. And he knew his Bible. But he would give each and every verse his little twist, so that 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I believe we're nowhere near the gospel. So all of this is going on. In the first few years of our marriage, I thought, well, this guy's nuts. I didn't want anything to do with him. But I was the frog in the pot of boiling water. I went along to get along with my wife. I remember after his comments about 9/11 and really being introduced to his raving hatred for Jews and Zionism, I thought, honey, when I told her later that night, I don't think this guy is who you think he is. I think he's in danger. We should have nothing to do with him. And I never followed up, and I never continued that line of thinking. She never brought it up again. And again, I look back and think, well, if I had pressed the issue, would my wife have left me then? Maybe. I don't know. So then fast forward a few years, we would have conferences once or twice a year. He was in Southern California. We were in Idaho, Montana. He would come up to Northern Idaho, and our conferences where, you and I sit down, Mike is over a cup of coffee, or we'll have a meeting. But with Uncle Robert involved, it was a conference, because everything he did was more important and special. And we would have those a few times a year, and that's where we would, be fed his pearls of wisdom. And we weren't sharing Uncle Robert and his pearls of wisdom. We did not go out of our way to bring in converts. It was kind of the exact opposite. We circled the wagons around him. We protected him because only he knew the true gospel. So he's always in danger from the powers that be. And just to give you an idea of how crazy our conferences were, 2016, like the biggest story in our country was Trump versus Clinton, right, in the election. So we had a conference that summer, and he goes on and on. And mind you, in the room are my 5 children. 3 of them at the time were under 10 years old. And he starts explaining the kind of the power structure of the laughing hyena pack in Africa. And in that pack, it's the female who is dominant. The female who has given birth several times is the dominant animal, not the males. And when the female has given birth a few times, it develops a fleshy appendage that looks like a penis. And it's bigger than the guys. And so she becomes now the dominant creature in that pack. And then Uncle Robert, through the way he could do it, compares Hillary Clinton to the dominant female laughing hyena. And if she's elected president, all the male leaders around the world will figuratively lick her groin just like the males do in the hyena pack. It's disgusting, right? And it's only he could get away with it. Like, if you were in my living room, Mike, and you started sharing that story, I would have said, stop it, or get out. I've got kids here. But whatever was inappropriate for you and me was never inappropriate for Uncle Robert. So shortly after that, we had another conference where we all shared our testimony. And for years, I knew that my wife doubted my testimony. I knew that Uncle Robert did. I knew that my in-laws did. Because one of the worst things he did was act as a gatekeeper to God. And he convinced all the adults that our previous testimony, where we had verbally expressed our belief in Christ, expressed our desire to be saved, that we are a sinner, acknowledged all of that, he caused us to doubt it, and then we had to be, in essence, saved by him. And, Christianity is quite simple and very straightforward, black and white, that the only way to heaven is through Jesus Christ. He is the gate. He is the shepherd. And anybody that tries to set himself up as another gate ahead of him is trying to act as a gatekeeper to God. It's unbiblical and wicked. So he convinced me to doubt my faith. And so that would have been around 2016 or 15. So I was really only brainwashed for probably about 2.5 years. Whereas my wife at the time would have really grown up in a world where she spent most of her life brainwashed. Same with my in-laws. So then in 2017, she eventually left me. I was never pure enough, never devoted enough to Uncle Robert. I was the one who was always asking questions. And whenever I would ask a question, okay, I've got an open mind. Can you share with me how the Jews, did this or that? And I would never get a direct answer. I would always get, Peter, why are you so stupid that you don't understand me? So every time that happened, I would be further diminished in the eyes of my wife and also my kids who are hearing all this as well. So she left me to draw closer to him. And then the two of them started this vicious campaign of parental alienation, where they started to teach our children that I was the devil, I was Satan, and a sorcerer, a bloodline, a sperm donor. And I remember, Mike, when they started to, share with the children and really kind of beat me over the head with it, that I was just a bloodline and a sperm donor, I knew that was wicked. And Uncle Robert saying, you need to quit imprisoning the children in biological determination. In other words, my poor children are in prison because, they didn't win the lucky DNA drawing and got me as their dad. That's pretty much what they were saying. All in an effort to then remove me as father, and so that Uncle Robert would be the, now figurative father for all my children, which again is another attribute of cult leaders. They blur the lines of the nuclear family. So my in-laws called him Dad. My wife and I called him Uncle Robert. Our kids called him Grandpa Bob. But everybody then would be really trying to compete to be the most favorite son or daughter. And Uncle Robert would be their dad. And I knew it was wicked, even though I was brainwashed at the time. Because I had to not fast forward, but rewind about 2 years. Uncle Robert had sons who never showed up at our conferences. They married and then had granddaughters. Uncle Robert had no grandsons to continue his legacy. And in the mind of my wife and my in-laws, he was the only thing saving the world from World War III. So a world without his lineage was doomed. So she was around 40 or 41 at the time, I think. We had 5 kids. She wanted to be a surrogate to provide a male grandson for Uncle Robert to continue his legacy. And at the time, I was repulsed by the idea, and it thankfully never happened. But that's how concerned she was with his bloodline, his sperm, his DNA. Well, now 2 years later, they're using that as a pejorative to denigrate me. That was really the first moment of many. I didn't have any one aha moment when I came out of the cult. That was probably the first one where I thought, you know what? That's wicked. Because even when my wife had left me, I thought Uncle Robert was the only one that could save my marriage. He would bring her back. She was right, he was right, I was wrong, it's all my fault. So I finally then reached out to my family and my friends in the area. No one knew, no one had any idea. And Mike, for a lot of this, I'm a sports broadcaster. I'm on ESPN, I'm on CBS, I'm on Fox, I'm on Outdoor Life Network. No one had any idea that I was in a tiny cult. And you know what? Neither did I. Because I always tell people, no one knows they're in a cult. You only know you were in one. And so cults come in all different shapes and sizes, but at their core, they have two things that they share. One, they have a leader. And then two, they start with undue manipulative mind control or brainwashing. So the person who's in it doesn't know. They always think it's something better, right? Their Uncle Robert's the greatest. It's not a cult. Of course it's not a cult. It's only when you get out that you can see that. So the Lord opened my eyes and ears. He really, lifted the veil. Uncle Robert and my wife had convinced me that I wasn't saved, that I tried 5 times to be saved by Uncle Robert. And I finally realized that I'd been, kind of temporarily blinded by this wicked little narcissist. And a friend of mine said, Peter, you were saved on the cross 2,000 years ago. And I remember thinking, oh, he's right. And I kind of lost sight of that. So, unfortunately, Paige filed for divorce. We had to get a guardian ad litem involved because as I started to share what was going on, cults control their members through isolation, paranoia, and secrecy. So no one knew much about what was going on, right? So as I start to share all this, my wife left me, my kids getting taught I'm the devil, could you please help me? And of course, everybody surrounded me, with love and support to get me through all this. But as they heard the stories, and then as I would share with them emails from Paige and Robert during this 1 year, in 2017, they were alarmed at how awful and wicked the things that they were saying and doing about me and then to the kids. Now, thankfully, there was no sexual or physical abuse in our little cult. It was all mental, emotional, spiritual. But when she filed for divorce, of course, she wanted really the kids out of my life. But we got a guardian ad litem involved. She did a jaw-dropping report. It was a 50-page report. Guardian ad litem's is someone the court appoints to look out for the best interests of the children in a high-conflict divorce. So when she left, she took the 3 youngest kids with her to Idaho. The 2 oldest were in high school and college, so they stayed in Montana. But the court sent the 3 kids back to me. And then, eventually the divorce was final. But, I recovered. And the Lord really helped me see that, yep, I was in a cult. And I didn't want to admit it. I thought, this was inappropriate. What he did was wicked, etc. And then I read my first book on cults, and I highlighted like half the book. I thought, that was a cult. Like, if this wasn't a cult, cults don't exist. So that's my story, kind of a nutshell. I've just recapped about 30 years, but I'm 1,000,000 times stronger now than I ever was. I go to James chapter 1, and I'm paraphrasing, where it says, if you lack wisdom, ask, and the Lord is generous, he'll give it to you, but you have to believe, don't doubt. And I've done that. And so as a single dad for the last 7-8 years now, I ask every day for wisdom and discernment and energy. And, my kids now at least have seen or heard my side of the story, which is another reason why I wrote my book. But cult influence is very destructive, and it's going to take a long time, really, for all of that to really be unwound. I have a good relationship with a few of my children. For the other children, it's a work in progress. But, parenting's a marathon, not a sprint. And so now that I am 1,000,000 times stronger, I don't walk around on eggshells around a wife that I'm intimidated of and afraid of, because that's what I was with Paige. And I'm no longer, constantly going to a family guru to, ask for advice. And, is my every thought and deed pure, or is this right or is this wrong? Which is what I did with Uncle Robert. We have victory in Christ, right? But with a cult leader, you'll never have victory. They will always make you experience doubt. Another way in which they control you. So in that regard, it's really a victorious story that I share. My book, and then again, if I fill in the details with you, we can take a long time. It's intense. There's a lot of bizarre, intense stuff. I think once you start my book, you can't put it down. But again, in the end, it's victorious. So that's why I share my story, because I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. The journey in and out of a tiny cult is awful. You don't want to experience it, trust me.
And the big question that comes to my mind, as a licensed counselor, like how many people have gotten tied into something like you were tied into. And, as I work with a parent or a brother or sister, trying to navigate like how they approach the situation, should I just say, hey, you know what, you're in a cult, like you need to kick some sense into them, or should I just come alongside them and love them and be a light for them and hopefully pull, thinking back to when you were in the middle of this,
right.
What is the best thing people who loved you that were outside that situation could have done for you to help you kind of open your eyes and realize what was going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been asked a question like that probably hundreds of times, but never the way you put it. So as a counselor, good job. Again, what I always say is that the person who's in it doesn't know. No one ever knowingly says, hey, Mike, I'm going to join a cult. This is great. I'm in a cult. They always think it's something else. They always think they're joining something else. So it's the person on the outside. And, if one of my family members, so again, brothers or my parents who was on the outside looking in, it would have been hard for them to really penetrate that shell. Really, the only way it could have been accomplished is if I had been removed from the cult. Now, my wife would come with me, but let's say we went instead of a week-long vacation, a month-long vacation. And all of my brothers and sister-in-laws, my parents knew what was going on, and they talked about and prayed about it for it and said, okay, let's try and help Peter and Paige get out of this. Maybe that would have worked. Cult leaders, they really prey on the vulnerable. So the important part about my story is I was vulnerable because I love my wife. My wife believed everything he said. So I don't know, well, the Lord can do anything, but I don't know if she'll ever be able to come out of it. Again, the Lord can do anything. But for me, that's how I was vulnerable. That's why I would have been so defensive, because I knew deep down, if I had to openly admit to my wife, to my in-laws, hey guys, he's wrong, Uncle Robert, it's a nut job, he's a narcissist, he's leading us astray, we need to get out. What would have happened was, you need to leave, Peter. And I knew that, right? And that's exactly what happened. I don't know if that answers your question. I guess the short answer is it would have been hard.
Yeah. And part of it, I love your answer, because I'm guessing, if I was interviewing 50 people who were once in a cult and got out of a cult, how they got out, I'd probably get 50 different answers.
Right.
So I don't know, if there's one, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, and that's going to get your family member out of the cult. But the one thing I think we can both agree on, you want to pray for that person.
Right.
And ask God for the wisdom, do I need to confront them? Do I need to just love them? And, knowing that there's just no perfect formula that is going to do it. And you definitely need God to step into that.
The way I would say it, Mike, is that there's a lot of, so again, I've read a number of books now. So I'm not the expert on cults. I'm the expert on what I experienced in my cult. But I have done a lot of reading and research on cults. And what often comes up is the idea of coded language. So you could remove the cult leader from the person's life, but the other people who are in the cult do a very good job of, kind of reining that person in. So if, Mike, you're trying to get me out of the cult, and I'm starting to go out, I'm starting to see it, my eyes and ears are starting to be open, you and other people would be able to rein me back in with coded language from the cult leader. And that would trigger something in me that it would cause me to doubt. I'd get fearful, so I'd get sucked right back in. And so really one of the ways to help people get removed from the cult, and maybe this is where it could happen 50 different ways, is that you have to somehow remove that coded language. So you have to remove, me, whoever's in the cult, from not only the cult leader, but all the other people that can then unwind and undo the good work that you have done. Another way to give an analogy to it, if it's what I'm saying is still a little confusing. Let's say you give me a book written by Uncle Robert, and it's 300 pages long. And let's say there's a book that's 300 pages long, and Uncle Robert only wrote one paragraph. And if you had me read that book, I'll find the one paragraph written by him. That's how unique his voice is and how I was able to recognize it. That's the power of the cult language, of the coded language over the person in the cult.
And how does, is Uncle Robert still around? Like, are your kids connected in any way? And how do you navigate that relationship?
Very difficultly, very diplomatically. Uncle Robert would be in his early 80s. I have not had any contact with him since 2017, when the Guardian ad litem report came out that sent the 3 children back to me, the 3 youngest, because the 2 oldest ones were, over 18. It said, the kids are going to live with Peter, and they must not have any contact with Uncle Robert. So, and I have upheld that. And I let him know, don't come anywhere near me with the kids. But I know he still has sway over Paige and my in-laws, because the court battle's still going on, so it's pretty obvious. In terms of my 2 oldest boys, they're on their own, they're in their mid-20s. I hear from them a little bit, not much. I can send a text and they'll reply, Merry Christmas, you too, that kind of thing. So I don't think they have any contact with Uncle Robert. It's more a question of the parental alienation was so severe that they still feel like I'm wrong and Mom is right. It's gotten better, slowly, but it's taken a long, long time.
Yeah. And in your experience and journey, coming from being inside the cult to outside, is it kind of like a light switch where it was all in one day and something just turned the light off and you realize, or was it more like a dimmer switch where little pieces came and it was like a process?
Yeah, it was more like, the dimmer that does this. There was never no one road to Damascus type moment that Saul and then became Paul. There was several little ones like that. The first one probably would have been when Paige and Uncle Robert were trying to, again, berate me as a mere bloodline and sperm donor, really kind of get me to agree to that so that I would back away from the lies of the kids. That was the first one. And then over the next few months, there were several more where, again, Paige doesn't think there's a cult. She never thought there was a cult. She still would not agree with the idea that there's a cult. Of course, Uncle Robert wouldn't call himself a cult leader. So they were very brazen in their demands and their accusations with me. I mean, everything was put in writing, letters or emails that we just sent to the court, like, here, look at what they're doing. It was so obvious. And as I heard more voices, so for years, all I heard was Uncle Robert's voice. Well, as I heard the voices of other people, my father, my brothers, other men in the community, it really became obvious to me that, wow, he's wrong. He's a little cult leader. But that dimmer switch, it took about a year to finally go from all off to all on.
Yeah. And it almost sounds like that's the way it was getting in as well. That it wasn't like you were out one day and the light switch went up, it was kind of a dimmer, and him being able to manipulate and kind of know what he's doing to get you in.
And even during the time, I was probably brainwashed between 2 and 3 years, okay? Even during that time that I would have been brainwashed, I was never comfortable around him. I was never comfortable on a phone call with him because I never knew what the guy would say. I always thought in the back of my mind, I got to call him because Paige wants me to call him so I could be, taught and mentored by him. But I would hesitate to call him so that who knows what is going to come out of his mouth this time. Like when she left me, and I was devastated. I'd never wanted a divorce. I was faithful our entire marriage. I love the woman. He was trying to drum into my head, you are filled with demons, Peter. You have a legion of demons in you, just like the man in Luke chapter 8. You are incapable of receiving salvation. And I'm hearing this over and over and over again. And I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, at night I couldn't sleep, so I would read the Psalms and I would cry out just like David would in my distress. And even though I'm hearing from him, you're demonic and you can't receive salvation, deep down I knew the Lord heard me, really did. And so that journey into the brainwashing, that took 17, 18 years. It took a very long time.
Yeah. And before we get into your resources and ways people can connect with you, just for my own personal, I love sports. Are you still growing up in Jersey, like Giants and Jets? And is there any chance that any of us could turn on our TV some night and hear your voice?
It's funny. I was never a Giants, Jets, Yankees, Mets, Knicks, Nets fan. I was never any of those. I was a Viking fan, a Dodger fan, and a Boston Celtics fan. I was total misfit, an orphan. For many years, I traveled around the world, was a broadcaster. I used to joke I was the Bob Costas of sports nobody watched, because I did rodeo and lumberjack and speed skating and skiing. A few years with ESPN where I did college football and basketball. There's a chance. Right now, all I do is local high school, and I love it. As a single dad, it's hard to travel. But high school game or an NBA game, it's still a game. It's still fun. But one day, now really what scratches the itch is I write. So in addition to my memoir, you can see the little sign behind me, I've written 2 novels on basketball. I got a 3rd one coming.
Yep. And that leads us right into people who want to read your memoir and any other ways to connect with you. I don't know if you have your own podcast you do, or anything you can share that people could learn more about you and what you have to offer.
Yeah, sure. So, my memoir, Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. Yes, it's an interesting title. It's a fascinating story about a dream that Paige, my former wife, was given right before she met me. I do believe it's possible that the Lord speaks to us in dreams. He's God. He can do whatever he wants. So this book, along with my novels, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, you name it. You can also go to my website, which is authorpeteryoung.com. So I do a lot of podcasts. I speak publicly. I have written 3 books. I'm really a storyteller. And, the parables that Christ used in the Bible, they were stories. And he used agriculture to share his stories. I believe partly because that's what his audience understood. Well, I love using sports as a metaphor for life and using the vehicle of sports to share the gospel. So my first book is The Blue Team. The sequel was Wardrobe of the Wolf. And then the final book will come out this year, East of Ashton. So again, you can get all those books online, and you can learn more about me on my website.
Perfect. And I really enjoyed, that was such a powerful story, and I really enjoyed it myself. And, first of all, thank you that, you're not ashamed of it or hide from it, knowing that people out there could be hearing this, be encouraged by it, and, pick up some truths from it, and, get out of the same type of situation that you were in. So thanks for the courage to do that, and also for sharing your heart today.
Yeah. And Mike, just let me leave you with one last thing. If there's any really one red flag, there's a lot of red flags. If you have someone you know and love that might be headed down the road, either into a cult or an inappropriate relationship, the biggest red flag is that someone you know love is now changed their historical communication. So they stopped showing up to Bible study or Friday night bowling or beers or book club. They don't email or call anymore. And now they have all or nothing praise for this one new person in your life. All praise, you can't ask any questions. Those are huge red flags. And it's incumbent upon you to reach out and have those uncomfortable conversations with that person forcefully.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that as well. And like I said, hopefully people run out, buy your book, and learn more about your story and journey. It's so interesting, and I'm sure it can help so many people. So thanks again, Peter.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Roar of Judah Show with Dr. Mike. I hope you were inspired and encouraged to grow in your own faith. Please follow us online. We're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, your favorite podcast platform, all under Roar of Judah Show. Also, we'd love to hear from our viewers. Leave a comment. If you want to email us, we're roarofjudahshow@gmail.com. You can also visit us online. The website is www.roarofjudahshow.com. On there's a link to our online store. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I specialize in anxiety treatment. You can find my Freedom from Anxiety video program that's already helped thousands of people. Also, I have a 90-day Freedom from Anxiety devotional book. We also have all kinds of merchandise to help you share your faith, and I hope you'll check that out. We also believe that we all have a story that declares God's glory. If you'd like to be a guest on this show, we'd love to have you. On the website, towards the bottom, there's a little form that you can fill out, and we would love to hear your story. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May his face shine upon you as you let your light shine, so others would see your good deeds and worship your Father in heaven. This is Dr. Mike signing off. Until next time.